Yeah.
So it was just kind of like a spiritual, but also musical, and it was just a big change, you know. And I had curly hair, after going through puberty, and my first dreadlock actually formed on its own. So
like a knot, like when it just kind of.
Yeah, it was just in the back here, and I was like, well, I guess I'm supposed to have dreadlocks.
That's cool, man. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Level Up Cleveland. And this week we bring you Dreadlock Dave.
That's me, man.
What's up, dude?
How you doing, brother?
Pretty good. Thanks for coming down, dude.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, this is you're such an interesting guy. I can't even. I need you to help me explain you. That's how interesting you are. Yeah, in researching you, I've really found you one of the most fascinating guys we've had on here. I think really one of the more fascinating for sure. You actually call yourself what you do Funkadelic Funk Pop.
That's correct.
Yeah, and so pretty much that's the fusion. That's the word that describes what you fuse.
Yes.
To create what you create. And I think that's even kind of like cutting it short. I think you could actually probably add another like 6 or 7 syllables on it.
Right.
Wow, man. Really interesting stuff. Can't wait to hear everything because I did a lot of reading and stuff, and there's a lot, but I'm sure there's a lot more to find out about Dave.
Yeah, sure, man.
So you're one of them guys. Music is your life, basically. I mean, right? I mean, at an early time, you decided that music was going to be it.
Yeah, absolutely. In my senior photograph next to the description next to the photograph is either I'm going to join the circus or I'm going to be on a stage somewhere. And this is actually before I made that leap into, full-time music.
Were you already playing instruments at this point, though?
Yeah. I started on, the quintessential piano lessons at age 5 from the little old lady, in the neighborhood. And then into the 5th grade band program, I started doing the saxophone.
So when people start playing instruments at 5, usually mom and dad or somebody has kind of pushed you into that situation.
Totally.
So how did that all happen, basically?
Yeah, well, we had a grand piano that was my grandmother's piano, and it's like, well, the boys are going to try to take piano lessons. My mom and dad are still very musical people. My mom played trumpet in the high school band. My dad's been singing barbershop chorus and chorals since he was 14 years old.
Oh, really?
So I heard barbershop around the house, all the time.
And that's not something that most kids are being subjected to all the time. That's
exactly,
it's a different type of music.
4-part harmony, boom, it was kind of ingrained in me.
Yeah, where the vocals are the instrument,
Exactly.
and probably after now, seeing what's happened with what the kind of music you play, with those that kind of singing, where the singing becomes the instrument, you're kind of like creating sounds through vocals. So there's a lot of creativity that, it's not like a guitar where you hit a string and it makes a noise. You're creating things and you're doing things. I'm wondering if that helped form why you have become the taste that you have in music, where you're very creative and outside of the box.
Yeah, I think it has. Just, hearing that music, that barbershop music for so long and so often, and also, the kitschy skits,
the sketchy skits.
That's right. The kitschy skits that they do, in a barbershop performance was like kind of the first theatrical thing I was involved in. Seeing my dad, at the contest, they have these contests annually or whenever, but all these quartets would come up and do their thing, which always had some kind of not only great 4-part harmonies, but it was a show.
Yeah, right.
So, there was a performance and there was a
dancing,
skit,
and
choreography.
choreography. Yeah,
choreography, right.
Sure. Yeah, man. Yeah. That's what it was all about.
Yeah. So that was like the first, really introduction I had to, performing and performances like that.
Yeah, and this is more of a hands-on thing. This is live. You're not somebody watching this on a television screen and seeing this from a million miles away and having dreams about it. This is all real and all happening in front of you.
Totally.
Yeah, right. And that helps form some things. And like when it comes to music and musicians, don't you find like a lot of people, it just comes down to the belief in that you can do it. Like with music, I think there's a lot of people who they don't even try because they feel like, oh, this is so bigger than I can ever do or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's some people that don't, it's like, I saw the Beatles play on TV and I wanted to do that. That was that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. There's that, then there's those people, right? But you have to be subjected to certain things. And there's a difference between watching something on television and having a musical family and a musical thing where you're subjected to it all the time.
Yeah.
Now I can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
So what kind of music are you listening to though while this is happening? I mean, you're awfully young, right? You're awfully young. Right. So is this like the music this is what you're doing at the time? I mean, are you into that at the time also, you think, or you remember?
Yeah, no, I wasn't really into it. It was like, dragging.
So mom and dad do type thing.
Right, exactly. But early on, around, like 6, 7 years old, my dad pulled out a stack of 45s, and they didn't listen to popular music really. They had, whatever the like Wixie 1260 was rolling in the car,
yeah.
Or something like that. But yeah, basically my dad pulled out a stack of old records, and I was amazed that, it was the first time I'd ever seen a piece of vinyl. And so it was a stack of 45s that included, like Chuck Berry and Fats Domino and all these things from the 50s. And the one that struck the chord with me literally was Hound Dog by Elvis Presley. I put that thing on. I was just mesmerized and sucked in. So I commandeered that stack of 45s, and that became my music library.
Oh, so that was your first ownership of music.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I had a hand-me-down little stereo set with 2 little speakers. It just had a turntable and an 8-track in it. So I didn't have much, no radio or anything.
Oh, didn't even have a receiver on
it.
Right,
exactly.
No kidding.
So that was like, I played those records over and over and over.
Yeah, those become like the records you own in your soul now, right?
Totally.
Like
Totally.
if they come on, it's like they resonate somewhere that no other song can, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, the first ones basically.
Yeah.
And so does this resonate now throughout all of school and everything? I mean, I'm gathering that you've always, as far back as you can remember, loved music. Is it basically type thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was gravitated towards everything musical. It was just a fascination for me. And starting early and having that musical family around to, it was just different. But yeah, I've always loved music, always.
Now, was there ever a time where you thought you might do something else other than music? Like, was there ever a time where you were like, or was there like that would just never really cross your mind?
No. About the farthest I got away from actually, being a performer or creative artist in the musical world. When I was 18 years old, I was a nurse's aide, actually. So
really?
I worked at a nursing home in an MR unit, and most of the patients were bedridden. And I actually thought about going into music therapy at that point.
Oh,
so
music was going to play a part of it, one way or the other.
Yeah, one way or the other. Whether I was in the medical field or
how do I incorporate music into this somewhere somehow?
Exactly.
Which is what you kind of do, right? Like that's what you do now. I mean, like that's your thing. Like you weave music into things that people wouldn't think to do things, and like you're doing things outside the box. That's what you do.
Oh, well, thank you, man.
That's what you do.
I try. I've always wanted to try to push my my personal boundaries and just get outside and suck it all in.
Yeah, and the other thing I think I found really really appealing about you, dude, is that you come off this vibe that you come off with that you just don't take yourself too seriously.
Right.
And that I just think that resonates with people. I really do. I think that I think that's something that we see sometimes where musicians take themselves a little too seriously, totally. And then and it's not fun.
No.
It's like
No.
it stops being fun all of a sudden. It's like, and the vibe with you is completely the opposite. I mean, it's like you're about fun, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like that's what it's all about.
Totally.
Hell
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, if you're not having fun, why do it?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's kind of been my whole thing all along. But you know, the older I get, definitely, it's like if it's not fun, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I don't lose interest very quickly.
Now, were you getting into any kind of bands during school, like high school or anything like that? Were you getting involved with other musicians at this point yet, and starting to like do the thing where you know you get to the bands?
Yeah. Well, I did. So in 5th grade, as I said, I started playing saxophone, and I loved that. We did some quartet stuff, which was really cool, like a saxophone quartet thing. And that I remember that being a pinnacle moment for me, as far as instrumentation and instrumental music.
Arranging things
Yeah.
with all the same instruments. So you had 4 saxes. Were they like different?
Yeah, two altos, tenor, and a baritone.
So you guys are creating songs with this.
4, and
That's so cool.
Yeah, it kind of resonated, you know, from my previous experience with the 4-part harmony and the barbershop music.
Oh,
It was
right.
just 4 instruments.
Oh, yeah.
But that was a pinnacle moment, and then so as school went on, I got into the marching band once I got into high school, and the saxophone just wasn't loud enough for me. So my freshman year I switched to flugelhorn, which is instead of the woodwind, it's a brass instrument. So It's a totally different embouchure, the way you blow into the horn. And so there was a learning curve there. But then sophomore year, I ended up grabbing the sousaphone. So I ended up marching with the big wraparound tuba. You know, I could have dotted the I had I gone to Ohio State. But my band director did actually. He was also
No kidding.
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that was he was a big inspiration.
So that's instrumentally you're playing those instruments first. That's how you're learning music. Basically, is starting off with wind instruments. You know, whether it's brass or woodwind.
Yeah, piano,
and then
brass.
piano was first, right?
Yeah,
Because piano was
first, and then saxophone, and then brass. And during that time in high school, I prior to that, I was 10 years old, moved to the new school system, and my new best friend, his older brother, he was a few years older than me, gave me his stack of Kiss records. So it was like the first 8 Kiss records I think I had, and then the 45s got set aside, and I started to listen to nothing but the Kiss records.
Kiss changes lives, right?
Yeah, exactly, right.
That's just so funny. It's the Beatles or Kiss.
Yeah.
I really believe that. I mean, like it depends on when you were born, kind of like.
Totally.
But it's the Beatles or Kiss.
Yeah.
It's like, it just seems like those bands just got so many people into music. It's incredible.
Yeah, really, it really is.
Yeah.
But for me, it was both. Like because I also heard the Beatles early on, but I didn't own any material. You know.
Yeah,
so
right. So the Kiss becomes like your thing.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And at that time now, are you like forcing yourself like on the stage? Are you starting to get into that point where you're like, because Kiss can do that to you.
Yeah.
Like just the inside of Alive 2, when you open it up, it makes you want to be a rock star.
Totally, dude. Well, I think I was maybe like 13 years old, 14 years old. In shop class, I built a guitar out of. They used to sell wine. They probably still do in like a 4-pack wooden box. And so I used that wooden box as the body of the guitar.
Wow.
And it was barely functional, but it was kind of like an old wash tub kind of thing.
It made noise.
Portable, yeah. It made noise. But there was an afternoon one summer where we put the Kiss makeup on and went out on the tree lawn and were air guitaring, and I actually stuck a smoke bomb in this wooden
you did the
guitar, did the Ace Frehley thing, and caught the.
That's so cool.
It was like balsa wood or whatever this case, but it caught the guitar on fire. It was so rock and roll.
Everything that Ace does.
Exactly, man. So we're out on my buddy's tree lawn and scaring people as they drove down the road. But so it was like early high school, freshman sophomore year. I really started to like want to get into a band situation, and because of Gene Simmons, that influence on my life, I picked up the bass guitar.
Yeah,
got a bass guitar for Christmas, and that's kind of where it all started for me.
Gene's the guy,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
so cool though.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And yeah, and you would you say like right now in time that is your primary instrument? Would you say like I mean, or do you even have one? I mean, are you consider yourself like a bassist and you play everything?
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, bass guitar is my primary instrument.
Yeah, and you seem to be pretty good at it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. I was watching some video of you, and I was like, "Wow, man, this guy's all over that thing."
Nice.
And one thing that I want to get into some other things, but you seem to use your instrument in a very not necessarily the way that, or you're unorthodox. So like you're creating new sounds sometimes, like with these things, and you're creating new dynamics with the. You're not just using it in a traditional way. I mean, yeah, and same thing with that song "Free Fish." I was watching that one, and you got the banjo, and even that's not traditional banjo.
Right.
It's almost like you're playing guitar, but you got that nice banjo sound going with it. But you're playing a lot of single notes and just kind of like it's so different.
Cool. Well,
and it really has a different feel. But that's what I mean. Like you're thinking outside the box. You're not traditional with these instruments all the time, where you feel like you have to just like I said, you're doing these bass and you're up there singing while you're doing it, and you're doing these noises that kind of coincide with what you're saying. Dude, very cool.
Nice. Well, thank you, bro.
Yeah. Like what you're doing there is really neat. Where do you think you get the like? Here's what I always think is fascinating. It's easy to say, well, where do you think you get these ideas from? And where do you think all that comes from and stuff like that? The reason that it's so fascinating is that you just don't see it anywhere. Like there's a bazillion people out there playing music, but no one else is doing this.
Wow. Well, thanks, dude. I appreciate that.
But do you agree? Do you see anybody else doing it? Am I crazy to say that? I mean, like you're making songs that I never heard before.
Wow. Well, yeah, I guess maybe it's hard for me to look at it from that perspective, because I'm doing it, but I'm definitely drawing from a multitude of influences. And I'm, like early on, I remember having the thought, because I was a sousaphone player in high school, I was like, I want to, somehow integrate tuba into heavy metal, because that's what was happening at the time. So I've always had this kind of like, grab from whatever and then throw it all against the wall and see what sticks, and for me personally, that's kind of like how I work when I'm creating music or creating a creative project. It's kind of just like gather all my influences and see what happens. Yeah,
like I think when I was watching you, I was like, I wonder if like he has a bass in his hand or a guitar in his hand. He comes up with a little riff or a little something he comes up with, and then does he go through his like the Rolodex of instruments, and he's like, but that would sound better if I did that on this. Let me try that and see what that sounds like, and then after trial and error with a few different things, you find out like what it is I'm trying to figure it out because it's so unique,
Wow, well, cool. Well, thank you, man. Again, I it's when I'm working in the studio, I perform all the instruments myself, and it's kind of like that. It's just like, I'll pick up a whatever, once I lay down the foundation, I'll just pick things up or add things and just make it work.
Yeah.
To my ear.
Do you have a studio at your disposal, or
I do.
do you? Okay, so you have one at the house.
Yeah.
So that's what you do. So you write there.
Yes.
So everything's like you don't have to like take your stuff into the studio. You're just that's where you create it and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, what's your studio look like? I mean, do you got like instruments hanging all over the place, or do you got like is it you got everything right there at your disposal, or?
Yeah. Well, I call it Cool and Groovy Studios. But yeah, everything is plug and play. I got a drum kit, I got a keyboard, I got all my guitars, a rack on the wall. I have all my 45s from my dad's collection stuck to the ceiling.
You still have them all?
I still have them all.
That is so cool, dude.
And they're still playable for the most part, but I just take the thumbtack out and can put it on the turntable.
Oh.
But during the pandemic, I actually did a live stream from my studio. So if anybody's interested,
you see what it looks like, you can see it.
Yeah, on YouTube you could go look, but it's when the sunshine is shining, when it's shining. It's just a small, I converted a car and a half garage into a soundproof room.
Oh, and, so is it attached or detached from the house?
Attached.
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's
so
cool.
I can just 24/7. I can make as much noise as I want.
And that's what you do. I mean, is that what you pretty much do? Is that what you spend most of your time doing? Is making music?
No, actually, recently, I mean, I've just been working so much. I sling,
Yeah, that's the hardest.
hippy dippy love songs in my own way at restaurants, bars, wineries, and that's the last several years. That's what I've been working on.
So what do you mean by that though? What are you doing?
I'm just playing cover tunes.
So you're just going there and you're setting up an acoustic setup and then you're just playing?
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
Yeah. So singing, playing acoustic guitar, and I have a looper pedal, but I don't do a lot of looping, like layers and layers and layers. It's more organic, just so I can play with myself in public, so and get paid for it.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, it's just it's kind of like just like a singer songwriter you'd see, and but I do it a little differently with the looper and the bass, and I change the keys to fit my voice. I'll do I'm a utilitarian guitar player, so I'm not like doing intricate things. I'm hammering out strumming the chords and singing the songs.
Do you ever put down one instrument and pick up another in for the loop?
Yes.
So you do that with bass guitar?
Yes.
Oh,
and
no
guitar.
kidding.
So I'll run a rhythm. I'll run the rhythm chord change, verse or chorus, and then I'll solo over that on the guitar. And then sometimes I'll pick up the bass, or sometimes I'll start with the bass, lay down a loop, and then funk out, and
Did you find messing with that looper? Did you find it pretty easy to figure it out, or did it take you a little while to get the hang of it? Or
well, like when I was in college, I actually had, I think Dodd put out, I think it was a 13 or 12-second looper or something was the first thing that came out, and I was fortunate to have one of those, and so it was, even though it was a short sample time, it got me into the whole as far as keeping things working. As far as your beat, like the downbeat of the loop, when you start that and stop that, that's the hardest thing for most people, I think.
Yeah.
Is making that loop seamless.
Yeah, right. So so which note that you have ended on and which note you're starting on, so you don't do it on the one next to it, and then everything's now out of time.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Once you finalize that loop, that's it.
Yeah. Right.
So
especially
you gotta
live.
Start over.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So fortunately, it really helped me with my timing. Just doing that, and being a bass player all these years, I pride myself on being a good timekeeper.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I wanted to be a drummer.
Part of that rhythm section, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can you play the drums?
Yeah.
So you do that also?
Yes, yeah.
Is there any instrument you feel like you're not very good at?
Well,
have you picked that one up yet? It's like, is there like one you're like, oh yeah,
flute, man. I can't get a note out of a flute.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it just in how you blow into it type thing?
Yeah. I could do it out of a bottle, right? Beer bottle, get that whistle going. It's kind of like that where you're blowing over the hole, but you can't. For me that was always impossible. I tried. So
did it drive you crazy when you couldn't do it? Is it one of them things where you were just like?
Yeah, it was
because everything up to this point you've been able to do, like,
yeah, right. And the brass and the woodwind, even like my lip. I could play saxophone now for 5-10 minutes before my lip feels like I got punched in the face.
Yeah.
It's just a fat lip, But you got to build up that embouchure, and.
So you get back to your high school. You said you were in a couple bands and you were doing some stuff. Then you get out of high school. Now you got some decisions you got to make, right? Everyone's got the post high school decisions they got to make, right?
Right.
So you got to you're going to decide, am I going to go to work? I'm going to be. You pretty much at this point have decided you want to be a musician, though, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's already kind of decided for you, that part, right? You've that your mind's made up there.
Yeah. So like once I got out of high school, I was in a couple bands during high school, and we played a couple gigs. I mean, my first band. The first gig was actually a paid gig, so
really,
yeah, it was. We debuted at the North Olmsted Recreation Complex in the ice rink. Playing hard rock metal at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
What were you playing? Like, do you remember some of the songs you were playing?
Well, we wrote original songs.
Oh, you were doing your own stuff too.
Just a little bit, and then we were doing like Living After Midnight, Judas Priest, and some Iron Maiden, and and some Kiss, and,
cool.
All that stuff. That was happening. But yeah, so we got paid for the gig, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. All my friends are here. There's girls here. We're getting paid. Maybe this is a career path.
Yeah, right.
So that's kind of how that started. But once I graduated high school, I decided to go to electronics school because I figured it would also mesh into
with music
I
somehow.
could repair my own guitars or whatever. And at the time, this was late '80s, and so the computer world was changing like super fast. I mean, nobody had personal PCs yet or anything like that. The internet was just starting to bud.
Yeah.
And so that was like a decade later before I really integrated into the computer thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, after electronics school, it didn't jive with me sitting on a metal stool for 8 hours a day soldering little joints. It was just like not my thing, and so I decided to go to Hollywood and went out to California for 6 weeks. Lived in Hollywood, right off of Sunset Boulevard. I could walk out the apartment, and then Sunset was there, and the Capitol Record Building was right there.
So you moved there?
Yeah. Everybody on the Sunset Strip looked like Guns N' Roses.
All had their clothes and the hair and everything. Yeah.
It was, it was shifting. We didn't see it necessarily on MTV yet, but it was shifting.
Yeah, everything happened in California before we ever got to see it. Yeah, right.
Exactly. So like the flashy spandex and all that was kind of fading in favor of the leather and the jeans and that kind of Guns N' Roses look. But yeah, Hollywood was cool, to visit. It wasn't my thing, man. Just the the whole vibe. It was just too crazy for me.
Yeah.
And I like to get crazy every once in a while, but it's just like, it was really crazy at the time, living right down there. And, we were going to the bars every night, the Whiskey, Gazzari's, all the places on the Strip, but it was crazy because the drugs were so rampant at that time. And, they would ring the apartment buzzer, like, hey, you guys need anything?
Really?
Yeah, right. And we didn't, but yeah, it was just weird, man. And it was 4 guys living in an apartment with no furniture. We were sleeping on sleeping bags on the floor.
Oh.
And so I went out there with a couple $100, and it was a great visit. I was out there for 6-8 weeks.
Did you make it that long? That's 2 months. That's a good amount of time, right?
Yeah. But then it became Christmas time, and my parents had relocated to Chicago, so it was just like, you know what, man, I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna go to music school. So I tried to. I got into Berkeley in Boston. And then I drove up there with a friend, and my car was ripped off. So we were stranded in Boston for 48 hours.
Wow.
As a 19-year-old kid with no money. And my parents happened to be in Europe at the time. And my friend's parents were on Kelly's Island, so there was no way to get a hold of anybody.
Yeah, and this was before cell phones and Zelle and Venmo.
Yeah, exactly, man, exactly. So we found a friend of mine from New York, wired us some money, and we were able to get on the bus from Boston but it was just a harrowing experience.
Yeah, right.
But so then I came back to the Cleveland area and started attending University of Akron and studied jazz and did their music program. I was on the 5-year plan and still didn't graduate, but I had a lot of fun. Started working in music retail at that time at Sam's Music, which was Sam's world of golf, guns, tennis, and music.
Was that the last one, music?
Yeah. Their main store was down on 30th and Prospect.
Oh,
and so yeah, that was like my foray into music retail and gear and all that aspect of being a musician.
Yeah, so that's where you kind of learned a lot about that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. I was the guy doing inventory, so I had to know all the gear and what it was and what it did, and tuning guitars and keeping everything,
Yeah, right.
happening.
So far, there's all these little lessons.
Yes.
We've heard a bunch of these little things that along the line that are just little learning lessons along the way that get you to ultimately to where you're not even Dreadlock Dave yet.
Correct.
we're building him.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's what was happening, man.
So you come back home, you get a job, doing you're doing the thing, and then are you looking for other musicians too at this point? Are you trying to still play music while you're going to school and everything? I mean, are you still involved in the scene also?
There was about 2 or 3 years where I didn't. It was late 80s, early 90s. I was really just concentrating on school.
Right. Okay.
And working part-time in a music store, and that was that was cool enough for me.
Yeah.
But then a couple coworkers at the music store, we joined forces and started a band, and this was in like 89, 90. It was called Big Machine, but it was a metal leaning band. We kind of likened ourselves to like Queensryche, actually, like classy metal.
Yeah, right.
Not so much hairspray and spandex or anything like that.
No, right. Well, Queensryche had their own thing kind of too, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of where that band kind of took me. And then basically I didn't have any older friends growing up. I was always the oldest, and I had, a couple years younger, a year younger. So I didn't have any older brothers or sisters. So I didn't really like get into classic rock until I was in college. So
so you're a late bloomer, So that's like all that was new music to you at that point. You're discovering all that type stuff, which is cool.
Yeah,
because I did that a lot too. Like later on, like Thin Lizzy. I didn't know a thing about Thin Lizzy till later, and then it was like, oh my god, that kind of thing.
Right, exactly. So like I just gravitated towards during college. My first taste of reggae, with Bob Marley Legend record, right? To every person's first Bob Marley record.
Yeah.
And all the classic rock from like the Beatles, but deeper stuff. Jethro Tull, like the more obscure 70s. Not that either one of those bands is obscure, but
were you into the prog rock type thing back then? Or was it like Mahogany Rush type thing? Were you into stuff like that, or were even like Yes and stuff like that? Like
Rush was my band, like as far as that progressive stuff, and out there in front of everything.
Still, I mean, you still a big Rush fan?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Caress of Steel is probably one of my favorite records.
Really?
Well, yeah.
Isn't that crazy? That's like the least
favorite.
That's the one that did the. They always say, "Oh, that was the that they almost didn't make it because of that." Record.
Right, exactly.
That's the one though, man. Lakeside Park, and it's a great album.
Yeah, Diddicks and Nurpits.
Yeah,
I think I'm going bald.
I think I'm going bald. Yeah, that's a great album, man.
Yeah, I love the diversity on that record.
Yeah, they loved it too. They couldn't believe it. Everyone hated it.
Right. But
that's cool.
Yeah, so like all during college, I was just researching. I was going to the library and making mixed cassettes and copying albums. Like that was like late high school, college. I was just trying to amass as much music as I could.
You were creating your own collection for free.
Yeah, exactly.
You're before Napster.
Yeah,
you were Napster before
Napster. Right. So it was just a discovery period for me for music, and then also I was all the cats at the music store were older jazz guys listening and turning me on to Miles Davis and all the greats of that era, Chick Corea Electric Band, and so I my musical, the eclecticness by the time I was in my mid-20s of the things that I loved was a huge range.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there was ever. I'm listening to you telling me this, and I don't know that there was ever a spot where your mind was closed. Like it's like like I know me, for instance, my music history. I have a lot of periods in my life where I was very tunnel vision, single-minded. Thrash metal. When I was into that phase, it was like that's it. Like anything outside of that's like. And it was that way, and then later on I realized that was kind of ridiculous, but I'm getting the vibe from you like it was never really like that for you. It was kind of like music is just music, man, and that's it. Like there is no you don't separate it, you just love it all,
Correct. Yeah, I actually shunned the early metal influence in my life, which was high school and beginning of college. I just I pushed all that aside because I dug into the 60s and 70s catalogs of bands, and that became my real true love.
I see.
Like 65 to 75, there's something about that production. I mean, it's analog. The bands were basically playing in the studio live together.
Yeah.
And it just, to me, it has a different sound, you know. And
there's a lot of great bands that came out at the time. Yeah, there's a lot of great music too. I mean, the sound is great too. But man, you got Zeppelin, you got Sabbath. There's a whole lot of great bands that came out at that time.
Totally,
a
just
lot.
huge. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it was an amazing time. And
so, you're in college.
Yeah. Yep.
And when you're going to college, like you're discovering the classic rock stuff at this point too, at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So you're learning jazz.
Yep.
And why did you decide jazz? Is that just basically what the classes are when you get into music? It's mostly like a lot of jazz is the main.
Yeah.
That's what you learn.
Well, at the time at the University of Akron, I mean, it was more limited, you know, what you could do or what, you know, there wasn't a contemporary program because, as I said, I was accepted into Berkeley. So I was thinking, you know, like rock and roll school is where I want to be, or like thought about going back to LA to do the GIT, BIT thing. You know, but I wanted something contemporary. But because at the time, Akron, it was funny. It felt like there was this, you know, hierarchy of like the majority of the school was classical musicians, and then you had a much smaller group that was the jazz guys, and then you had the dregs, the rock and roll guys, which is where I was. So I'm like, well, if I study jazz, and I started playing upright bass at that point because they didn't even offer an electric bass program. So I technically, had I graduated, I probably would have been one of the first people to graduate from the University of Akron with an electric bass performance degree. I was kind of heading in to try to do my own program there. You know, just like I normally do.
Yeah, right. I'm doing it my own way.
Right. So that didn't happen. But I got into my first the Big Machine, the metal band, was an original band. We were, you know, all original music, and we were playing the Akron Agora and Flash's nightclub and G.J. McCaw's out in Lorraine, and, you know, the smaller and mid-sized clubs at that time. We were trying to, you know, break out. And then, of course, you know, the whole grunge movement came. So it's just like, the Agora closed, all those clubs just kind of, the scene died.
Yeah, it did.
You know, it was an amazing, interesting time. So I got more into the classic rock thing and formed my first, you know, classic rock power trio. And so we were doing the bars. My first gig was at a place called Merker's Lounge on 152nd in Lorraine.
No.
Yeah.
136th in Lorraine.
136th in Lorraine.
I grew up on that street.
Is that right?
I grew up on 136th.
No way, dude.
That's the corner of my street.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, Merker's Lounge. I might have heard you that night.
You might have.
I did. They used to have some killer bands there.
Yeah, so we used to play. They used to book us for 2 nighs.
That's too funny.
Yeah, you do a Friday and a Saturday night, so it was cool. You left your gear, and at the time, I was living in an efficiency apartment for $187.50 a month, and I was like, shit, man, I can you know, make my nut here in one, you know, pay my rent in one weekend.
Yeah, right, man.
So that was kind of the moment that I decided, you know what, I'm gonna be a musician around town and you know, play as many gigs as I possibly can.
That's cool.
And that's kind of what launched the last 30 years.
And that's the only way you can really do it, right? Yeah. Like you know, musicians that think you can't make money playing music, you can. Yeah. You can make a career out of it. You just got to kick ass. You got to like get out there and like grind, man. You got to gig.
Yeah.
You got to play, man. Exactly. You can't just play weekends either. Like you got to play Wednesdays, Thursdays, Tuesdays, whenever you can.
Yeah.
Like we've met a bunch. Yeah. You know, we met a bunch of guys that do it.
Yeah.
You know, and to be honest with you, I'll give you guys credit. I don't know fucking how you do it. like you know, like the thing about entertainment is like wearing that smile every day. Like even when you ain't feeling it, but you got to. You know what I mean? Yeah. Every day's, you know, everybody. You're just like everybody else. You got your good days. You got your bad days. But damn, dude, you guys got to get out there and have a good day every day. You have to. That's your job.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing to me.
Well, yeah, I feel lucky. I feel blessed to be able to do music, number one, and actually I made a living. I haven't had to punch a clock in 30 years.
Yeah, that's great.
You know, so it's you know, and I'm, you know, I don't live high on the hog or anything, but I, you know, I make my nut and raised a family, bought a house, and, you know.
When you're out playing music and doing that, to make money, like that's already living pretty high on the hog, right?
Well,
like that's pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty
economically,
fun.
no, but
Yeah,
yes.
I know what you mean, but I mean, like, what does money buy you, anyways? Those are kind of experiences. I mean, like, that really is like I think that's so cool that you get to do that.
Totally. I feel really lucky, and I've worked hard to be able to do that, but it's yeah, I mean, it's a great gig, man.
So you get out of college. I want to keep on this. I want to finish this off. So you get out of college, and what do you do first?
So I was still working at the music store, and then just transitioned into full time. I had like 3 or 4 bands I was playing with in my early 20s, and then I got into a band called Rebels Without Applause, and ended up being with them for 18 years.
Oh wow!
So
and what are you doing with them?
Playing bass.
I mean, but what kind of music? What is
all that classic rock?
So you're doing covers and you're doing classic rock and you're just out there killing it.
Yeah. And technically, we were a jam band in a way. I mean, even though like we would do like a Doors tune, like "Love Me 2 Times" or something like that, but it would be a 6-minute version.
Yeah, you go into a middle part. And just wouldn't stop.
And our guitar player Steve Gordon is still an amazing musician and had the ability to we could stretch things out. So
you improvise a lot of improvisations and stuff like that. If you want, all of a sudden it's just like, all right,
totally,
we're going into one of them parts, guys.
Yeah,
fuck it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, most of the tunes, and we had like a list of 200 or 300 songs in the repertoire.
Oh my god, dude, that's amazing to me, dude. That's a lot, man.
More than half I learned on the gig.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yelling the chords out to me.
Yeah.
And then, like, it was funny. For years after I was in that band, I would be in the grocery store and hear, like, the original tune, and I was like, wow, that's nothing like the way we play it. Or, the bass line's nothing. I would
like,
write
that's
my own
wrong.
bass lines. Right, exactly. It was just funny and weird. But, yeah, so I that was like a huge learning experience for me.
Yeah, right.
Because all those guys were 10 years older than me, and I was the young.
They'd been there too and done a lot of
experience.
They had all the experience.
Yeah, Rebels Without Applause ended up being a band for 35 years. It was a band 10 years before I joined, and then I was with them for 18 years, and then it went for seven more. Yeah,
that's a long time, man.
Yeah, with two lineup changes. So as the singer and the guitar player were together for 35 years, slinging cover songs around Cleveland.
So so you do that band.
Yep.
18 years. So you're now you're up there. Now you're in your 40 years old, somewhere in that area,
exactly.
Right? When does Dreadlock Dave come into the picture?
So yeah, that came in the early 90s. I gravitated towards Bob Marley and marijuana, and kind of opened my mind.
The whole Rastaman thing.
Yeah. Living the diet. I became naturally motivated, organic, and not eating preservatives and fast food and all that shit.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like a spiritual, but also musical, and it was just a big change, you know. And I had curly hair, after going through puberty, and my first dreadlock actually formed on its own. So
like a knot, like when it just kind of.
Yeah, it was just in the back here, and I was like, well, I guess I'm supposed to have dreadlocks.
That's cool, man.
And the girl singer in our band at the time, she was heavily influenced by Rasta, and so she turned me on to different ways of thinking, and that kind of just led me down this path. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put dreadlocks in, and so that
you haven't looked back.
Yeah. And
are you still like in the same diet and everything like that? Or are you still?
No, that's varied over the years. I mean, I was a pescatarian for a long time. I was a vegetarian for a little while, but no, I'm back on the meat wagon. Or off the meat wagon, whatever it is. I'm eating meat.
Yeah, you eat meat again.
Yeah.
That's good. It's good.
Yeah.
And then when you come in here today, you gift us. You gift us with beer.
Yes.
Like, hey, guys, I brought you some beer. And I'm thinking, he's going to pull out a couple beers. That was awfully nice. So you got your own fucking beer.
That's right.
How cool is that, dude?
It's super cool because, I collected beer cans as a kid in the 70s.
I think we all did.
Yeah.
I think everybody did.
It was I thought I was going to be able to retire on my beer can collection. Right? But no, that was not to be. And so anyway, it was actually during the pandemic. right at the end, as things started opening up, I'm like, man, I got to go out to a restaurant and I hadn't been to a restaurant like a lot of people in a year or more, or whatever it was. And, yeah, man, I just got to go out, and I live near Chagrin Falls, and they got great restaurants down there. And so I said to my buddy, let's go get something to eat, but I want to stop off at this brewery that I stopped at once before the shutdown. And, we'll get a beer, and then we'll go down and get something to eat. Well, I walk in there, and it's instantly rock star treatment. Apparently the brew keeper, Eric Stewart, has been following my career for many, many years.
How wild is that?
Yeah, and so we just like hit it off, and the whole place, the Crooked Pecker Brewing Company in Chagrin Falls, is what I'm talking about. But he said, yeah, man, we should do a Dreadlock Dave beer. Like, I love what you do. I love this. And I'm like, dude, I would be honored. So I actually got to choose the hops. And the first batch we made, I did the whole process.
Got to hands-on do it all.
You got in the tank and cleaned it out, shoveled the spent grain.
So this isn't like just your name on a can.
No. I said, dude, I want to I love a hazy IPA. It's my go-to. If I'm going to drink beer, I want something with some body and some thickness and some, it's like a loaf of bread in here.
Yeah, it's a good beer though.
Oh, thanks, man.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, everything the Crooked Pecker does is great.
Yeah, it's real good.
Yeah,
I'm surprised. I'm not usually a big fan of IPA. I can drink some of them, not all of them.
Yeah,
this is good.
Cool.
Yeah, man, very good.
I've had that same statement from people before, but and I can't take that much credit, but I did.
Well, you had more hands on than some people did.
Yeah. I told we collaborated, and I said, I want the most dank hazy IPA we can make, and it turned out to be an 8.5%.
Yeah.
Hazy IPA with Citra and Mosaic hops is
that what it is?
secret.
It does have a citrusy taste to it, actually.
A lot of people say grapefruit.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Yeah, maybe a little bit like grapefruit. Yeah, I couldn't place it, but citrusy for sure.
Yeah, it's not good. As punchy as some IPAs, or like that bitter.
No, it doesn't have a terrible aftertaste. That's what I don't like about most IPAs.
Right.
This has got a nice aftertaste.
Yeah, cool.
It's not bad at all.
Yeah, well,
like everything else, bro.
Cheers,
you're
brother.
cool. You're cool dude, man.
Oh, thanks, dude.
So you got stuff coming up. You think like you'd be gigging and stuff coming up here shortly? I mean, like,
yeah, my calendar's basically full.
Where do you normally play out? Like, where are some of the places that people could commonly see you? Like, is there some places, their go-to places where you?
Yeah, well, I'm doing the beer heads. So the beer heads in the Flats, Beerhead Avon, Beerhead Concord. Those are like 3 times a month. You
just kind of it's like rotate around them. Yeah. Okay.
So, but there's several other places I'm doing on a regular too. But you can always check that out at dreadlockdave.com.
Yeah, you got your own website.
Own website. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you on social media also?
Yes.
So you got everything.
Yeah.
I knew that. I just got to pretend.
Yeah, just Google me, man. I love when you Google me.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, and so as far as writing tunes now.
Yeah.
Do you put out? Do you put out your music, and what's the process with that?
Yeah. So I did. My last record was in 2018, and I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I think I want to put out some vinyl. So I'm going to do a release on Friday, November 17th at the Beachland Tavern.
Oh, a release party.
Yeah. So and I the plan is to get my first. I'm a huge vinyl fan, as a young lad, but yeah, I'd like to get a band together and just do maybe an EP or maybe a full length. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but something's coming out on November. New Dreadlock Dave music is coming out
and you say, when you say get a band together, you're talking about like friends and stuff like that, or you're gonna go hire people, or do you know people that you're just gonna like come on, dude, we got to do this.
Yeah.
Is there already people you got in mind?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have my Rolodex of musicians that I play, because I'm not doing a lot of band work now, but I'm doing solo stuff, and I have several musicians on the top end of the Rolodex that I'll call, and this may be a conglomeration of several people with this new recording.
Yeah, and then you never know too. Once you do this, You never know, man. It's just sometimes these things have a way of never ending.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're like, wow, that was fun. A lot more fun than I thought. Let's do it again.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. So everyone just keep their eyes open, man, and see what Dreadlock Dave's doing. I mean, because you got the website, and once you have a website, as long as they go to dreadlockdave.com, they know everything.
Yeah, exactly.
They just got to go to that, and I'll have the link down below. So cool. we'll take care of that also.
Awesome, man.
That's it, man. We're out of time.
All right, brother. It's a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks again, man, for coming in, dude. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
You're a blast.
Cheers.
Dreadlock Dave, man. Keep your eyes open. Dreadlockdave.com. Check it out. You find out where he's playing out. And, pick up some of this.
Yeah.
Is this in stores, or do you got to go there to get this? Are they gonna release this in the store?
You got to go to the brewery.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man.
But it's possible, and it's in kegs in several different places.
Oh, you can get a keg. Go pick up a keg of this shit. It's good.
It comes out quarterly.
Oh, so, does it really? So every quarter they're gonna...
Yeah.
Cool, man. All right, it's called from Crooked Pecker Brewing Company.
Yeah.
This is Dreadlock Dave's Double IP.
Double IPA.
Oh, IPA, man.
Yeah.
I missed the A. Double IPA.
It could be a double IP.
I think it's at 8.5%. All right, guys, that's it for us. We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
That'll be fine.